Welcome back to another episode of ROC Boys Football. It is officially NFL draft season. That is why we got ROC in here. You guys know it's NFL draft season when ROC is joining the podcast. Before we get into it, again, just want to say thank you guys for the support you guys have shown. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. It is going to get real busy with draft season approaching. Position rankings probably coming out mid-January. I mean, ROC just texted me at like 3 a.m. last night about Project Drones. We are getting through the film. Position rankings are coming soon. We're taking a look at a first-round mock draft of Ryan Wilson of CBS Sports. Again, just talking some bigger pictures type stuff. We're going to have an interesting conversation about quarterback one in this class. But let's get into it. I want to start with, so the Houston Texans probably going to have the first pick. We got to find here where we are at. They go with Bryce Young. I'm going to kick it to you guys. Look, CJ Stroud probably had his best performance, and we were talking about, like, what were the question marks about CJ Stroud dealing with pressure, being able to extend plays athletically. He answered those questions against Georgia. Probably his best game that he put on film his whole entire career at Ohio State, which is saying a lot. Boys, like quarterback one, is that still a question, or are we locked up with Bryce Young here?
I think it's a question. I think the problem for me is Bryce Young looked awesome last year when he had really good players. I mean, Jamison Williams and Johnny
Mechie.
Great receivers, obviously, both in the NFL, and J-Mo is a first-rounder. This year, he just looked out of sorts, and that was not all like his fault. Like, he was still great, and he was the only reason they even had a chance winning games. But when he didn't have that big-time talent, there were, like, cracks in his game. I mean, they just felt like you saw it. And I guess for me, C.J. Stroud, again, playing on really good teams all along, but even in that Georgia game, like Marvin Harrison goes down. He hasn't had JSN all year, but he was down. Even when Marvin Harrison went down, they still were moving the football. So to me, I really don't think this is as much of a lock as it seems like everyone thinks.
Going back to what you said about the cracks in the talent. I mean, this is more than a crack in the talent for especially an Alabama team that's known for having some elite wide receivers.
Yes.
I mean, you could barely name, if you're not a huge college football fan, you can't name a wide receiver on that team. So that's one thing. The other thing is you saw what Stroud did this last week. The best game probably of his entire career. I see these fourth quarter comebacks, these miraculous plays every single game from a Bryce Young, who I think is just a more polished prospect. So there's a couple of things when you look at both their tapes that you kind of question, but right now, I think the more sure thing, the surefire pick, especially for a Houston team that's dying for a quarterback, would be a Bryce Young.
The issue for me is you got two guys like, okay, they both have great arms. No one would doubt that. And you got a guy, I think CJ Stroud, who's getting knocked big time because Ohio State has not maybe performed up to their level for the past 2 years. And I think he's catching a lot of flack for it. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, you look at it, offensive line play has been pretty mediocre. It was better this year, but it was pretty bad.
No, Ohio State's offensive line was
21.
My biggest question mark about CJ Stroud is how can you replicate what he sees at Ohio State at the NFL level? Because he has a clean pocket almost every snap he takes. His first look is always open, and I have no question marks about CJ Stroud's arm. I was watching some Jaxon Smith-Njigba film from 2021, and I was still like CJ Stroud makes some beautiful throws. I have no question marks about his arm talent. My question mark is when you don't have the clean pockets, when your first option is not wide open, like Bryce Young had to deal with, is he going to be able to perform at that NFL level?
He dealt with that fine against Georgia. That was an easy game. I thought they were able to get pressure and his wideouts. I mean, he was down Marvin Harrison for a good chunk of that second half, and they continued to work it. He made big plays with his legs. I think people, because he didn't do that as much as Bryce Young did, who was very much used his legs and would make great throws and kind of magic plays. CJ Stroud, they moved the ball all the time when he was at Ohio State. And just because he didn't need to do what Bryce Young did constantly, because Bryce Young was on a less talented team for sure.
You have that answer, though. You know what Bryce Young can do when the play breaks down. And when
I think we can do it with CJ Stroud, but he's bigger. I think he's got probably a better arm to me. I don't think there's a better arm in the game than CJ.
No, I don't think so either. I'll say this. I was really close to I thought CJ Stroud and Will Levis were very close on that QB2, QB3. I take that back. Rock and I were talking about it the other day, like CJ Stroud looked awesome against Georgia. I'm not ready to move him above Bryce Young, but that being said, I think he clearly cemented himself as QB2 in this class. And again, you're looking at the Chicago Bears. We'll move on kind of in this mock. They're sitting there with Jalen Carter. That's a prime spot. I don't think anybody's happier that CJ Stroud put on that showing than the Chicago Bears, who, if they do sit at number 2 on draft night, there's going to be a lot of teams calling them for CJ Stroud at pick 2. And you're going to be able to acquire a lot of capital, which here's the next debate is if you're the Chicago Bears and you have a chance to get a guy like Jalen Carter or Will Anderson, are you going to pass that up to potentially get a lot more capital for a team like the Colts who want to trade up and get someone like CJ Stroud?
I think you do.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the other thing you can say is that a team like the Colts that might be trading up will probably still be bad next year, even if they do get a CJ Stroud. So your capital will probably still be a top 10 pick, and you'll probably get a couple first-round picks.
Yes.
Just
the Bears got the quarterback, so build around when you have a quarterback you can believe in, you need picks and you need to start building because that's how you're going to win.
Yeah, the Bears have always been about defense, and they got rid of Robert Quinn during the trade deadline this year. Definitely need some edge help. And some interior defensive line help. So either way, they really can't go wrong. It would be very difficult for the Bears to mess.
The thing is, I guess if you're the Bears and you can go get a Myles Murphy at 7 or something like that, if you can get a 1 or maybe even 2 extra first round picks on it, that feels like a trade you make because the Bears, again, if you don't need to jump up for a quarterback, you're in a good position to trade down.
And the Bears might be looking at the number 1 overall if the Texans can make it happen against a Colts team that I just don't think wants to play football anymore. So moving on, I guess, and working through this draft, Will Anderson, number 3. If Seattle stays here, I think that's kind of a lock. Will Anderson's a freak athlete. Seattle loves freak athletes. I think that makes a lot of sense. And the Cardinals, another team. Myles Murphy, I think, makes the most sense just because if you're the Cardinals, you struggled rushing the passer. You struggled stopping the run. What does Myles Murphy do for both that? He's going to help.
You got to replace Watt, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at Myles Murphy. I mean, the more I watch film, the more I like Tyree Wilson. So I guess this is a conversation we can have maybe for today or another day. But if you really want someone to replace Watt, someone a little bit thicker than a Myles Murphy that can play inside and out might be a better bet.
Tyree Wilson's growing on. Let's get through it, and Tyree Wilson's going to come up soon, so we'll talk about him there. The Colts, I think, if you're drafting here and there's CJ Stroud on the board, I think that's a no-brainer. I think CJ Stroud kind of cemented himself as QB2 against the Bulldogs. The Detroit Lions go get Kelee Ringo. Let's spend a minute talking about this cornerback class because Kelee Ringo, I see what you like. I mean, 6'2", 210 pounds. We're going to run a 4.3 40. He's a freak. And when you're thinking about covering a guy like DK Metcalf or some of these alpha dog, athletic, big wide receivers, Kelee Ringo's suited for that. Stiff as hell, though. In man coverage, if you're looking for a cornerback 1, I want a guy that can be great in man coverage. And I'm looking at a guy like Devon Witherspoon or Joey Porter Jr. here.
That makes sense. Because I'm with you. Kelee Ringo feels like he's got to play a little bit Richard Sherman type game. And not to say if you're good at that, I mean, Richard Sherman was an ultra valuable player. So it's not to say Kelee Ringo isn't the guy, but again, I do kind of feel like you're right. He fits into more of a.
He should be playing linebacker.
Zone. He shouldn't be playing linebacker, dude. He's really good. These people are coming at him. I feel it feels like coming out of the clouds at Kelee Ringo saying it. Again, I don't think the Ohio State game looked phenomenal. He did give up some yards, but
gave up some huge yards.
You're right. He's going to get 5 to 10 picks a year. Well, that's good.
Did you no?
You know that as a Cowboys fan, Rockoff, you give up some yards, but you take the ball away. That's
That's different one in the NFL than in college. I mean, if you can translate it to the NFL, it's one thing. Okay. Also, Diggs had 12, 13 sacks. That's a little bit more than 5. I don't know. I just think that there's more bigger needs and better players than Kelee Ringo here. I think this is another team that we talk about maybe come March that might be looking to trade up for a quarterback. So the Bears, we talked about them earlier. This is kind of where they're looking at moving back and seeing these kind of prospects. So I wouldn't put anything set in stone. I don't love Kelee as a prospect in the top 6 picks, but
I don't even know, especially with how deep. I love this cornerback class. I was doing a lot of cornerback stuff the last couple of days. Like, I don't even know if Kelee Ringo is going to be my top 3 cornerbacks. So especially at 6, I have trouble with that. Dill, I'm going to give you the floor. Will Levis, pick 7. Let's hear it, buddy.
Yeah, I know you think he's up with Stroud, which is the most asinine take in the world. I don't know. I personally am much bigger a Hendon Hooker fan. And I got to say, I got to dive a little deeper in and like watch the games back through. But just watching college football this year, and I get it, Josh Heupel, I think people like to kind of take away from Hendon Hooker by crediting Josh Heupel. I don't think it's like mutually exclusive. You need to play well to score the amount of points they did, and he did it. And
put Will Levis on Tennessee. What is the numbers looking like?
He's a throw misser. He misses high fairly consistently, which is concerning. And I don't think he has a very good feel in the pocket. That's frankly my biggest issue is he just starts getting antsy, it feels like, and running around a bit. Sit in the pocket and make your throws because he's got the talent.
Well, he didn't have a pocket to throw from because that Kentucky offensive line sucked. He's throwing to 2 true freshman wide receivers. Like, I truly believe Will Levis is pretty easily quarterback 3. And if you put him on a team like Ohio State, you put him on a team like Tennessee, it would look a lot different. Like, that offense sucked. They couldn't do anything.
Well, unfortunately, we didn't see it. And all we saw from Hendon Hooker is hit every throw he was supposed to make and score a billion points.
Jay, the issue with Levis, I don't think everything is just about the team he's on. He has some very large issues with his mechanics and his footwork. He throws off his back foot a lot. He makes some Zach Wilson type throws. He's sporadic. I don't really know. I think Hendon Hooker is a little bit more even keel, a little bit more accurate. Haven't really watched Hooker, just watched the games that have been on TV. But I mean, I have Dorian Thompson-Robinson above Levis.
Oh, Lord.
So I mean, we'll talk about that. At least he's got the dog in him. So we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, GMs are gonna fall in love with Will Levis, I think, and I don't even know. I like Will Levis, but I think we know GMs are gonna fall. Talk about another player that like GMs and defensive coordinators are gonna fall in love with. I had a bad start with Tyree Wilson. I think I watched Texas first. I wasn't that impressed. I didn't really get the top 10 hype. I watched him against NC State and ROC. I'm gonna let you take the floor because I know you're very high on a guy like Tyree Wilson. He's powerful.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing with him is you look at him, then you look at a Trayvon Walker from last year. I know Dylan's favorite player in the entire world. He's got that huge upside. He's an athlete, super strong. I think he had better tape than Trayvon did last year, and right now he's being talked to as like a number 10 overall pick. So I think as a prospect, you have to have him in your top 5 or 6 just because of his upside. Maybe the tape, he looks a little bit stiff. Maybe in the run game, he doesn't really flash as well, but the power's there, the athleticism's there. He's long. I just think it's a great pick, especially if this could be the pick for the Falcons. I think that's perfect.
And
you got 2 guys here like looking at Verse and Wilson. I personally have Verse a little higher right now, just because I think the tape was consistently better. He uses his hands much more effectively, and he's like very twitchy, which again to me is like such a key part of being a good pass rusher, is being able to again move in that explosive manner. Wilson was very, if he could get in you, he could be powerful and do some things, but I don't know if when you get into NFL like athletes, you got to have pass rush moves. And
the thing is, if you refine his game, like if you're a defensive line coach, you're salivating over this dude because the power he has in his hands is next level. And I was not a Tyree Wilson guy 2 weeks ago, and I'm becoming more of a.
You're right. When he's at his best, he's more dominant than
NC State. When he played NC State, and those are that's a good offensive line NC State has. I mean, he was a game wrecker. And Jared Verse, we just talked about him. I think that'd be a great pick. He's another guy who's probably going to be a top 10 guy on my board. It's going to be an interesting, and check out our position ranks for edge because I think this is going to get contested and it might get heated between us 3, but it's going to be.
I just think Verse, like what you're saying, I think Verse is definitely a better pass rusher right now. But how much better can he get? What is his ceiling? And how much better can a Tyree Wilson get?
He's on one knee all year. I don't think he was healthy for a second. So
no, I'm not arguing. He's definitely the better, more polished pass rusher right now.
When he played LSU at full strength, he was I mean, that's as good as you'll see a pass rusher play.
His best game of his entire life. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on, fellas, if I break it up between you two. Pick time, Paris Johnson Jr., my offensive tackle one. I talk about like a little bit raw. Like, yes, he needs to work on that anchor and pass pro. Like guys like Aiden Hutchinson last year, even this year, would get kind of into his pads. But elite athlete, extremely powerful in the run game. And the Eagles looking like they're going to want to run the football with Jalen Hurts. I think Paris Johnson, freak athlete who's great in that zone blocking scheme, I think could do a lot of damage. What I want to talk about here is the wide receiver discrepancy. Like I have Quentin Johnston comfortably over Jordan Addison. I'm interested to hear your guys' takes on that.
I mean, that's very comfortable for me. I just don't see a way to put an Addison over Quentin Johnston. I think that, again, we're talking about upside. I think Quentin Johnston has that Devontae Adams type player in him. Addison's really quick. He's a complete wide receiver. He did play in a really nice offense for air yards with Caleb Williams. But no, I definitely have Quentin Johnston over him.
Yeah, maybe one argument is Tennessee with Treylon Burks, like Quentin Johnston, two bigger targets. You want to get more of a refined guy, but I'm kind of with you on that. And talk about the Texans and Quentin Johnston, like pairing up with Bryce Young. That would be awesome. Oh man. Really? This Anthony development. I think most people, and if you follow the NFL draft, they're like, yeah, he could be a freak, but he should have came back for another year. Get ready for riding the pine for 2 years because this guy needs a lot of work.
Well,
if I'm a Jets fan, I see this pick and it's an Anthony Richardson who's nowhere near ready to start after going through the Zach Wilson era. I mean, I'm pissed.
I almost think you want a guy who can come in and like give you a chance because the defense is good enough for a chance. And I'm with you guys. I think Anthony Richardson realistically could be an extremely good player, but I wish he went back to Florida, played a year of, again, just being at his peak for more of the season. Because when he was good, like in parts of that game against Utah, he's just, good, accurate, throwing great footballs. And then you see other games like Kentucky where you got a lot of head scratchers and throwing picks and missing easy throws. But again, a guy who, if he plays his way, he could play his way into a top 5 pick for sure. He's that good.
100% agree. Christian Gonzalez, watched him last night. I like Christian Gonzalez. I like a lot of these cornerbacks. I think I'll have Christian Gonzalez, Joey Porter Jr., and Devon Witherspoon over Kelee Ringo. At this point, I'm still like working through it. But if you want a guy he didn't play that much man coverage, but I think he can in the NFL. Oregon, much more zone heavy, but he is really good. He's got that length, 3 interceptions on the year. Didn't really get targeted that much, even in the Washington game. They just don't want to throw his way. There was a lot of other spots in that Oregon secondary where you could pick on him, but I really do like his game. I want to talk a little bit about this pick for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Peter Skoronski. We've been talking a little bit about deciphering these tackles, Peter Skoronski, Paris Johnson Jr., Broderick Jones. Well, what are we thinking here?
Yeah, I think this is going to be another situation where some analysts, maybe some teams even overthink the arm length thing.
Yes.
This is an elite player. We see it every year, and it usually happens out of Northwestern with Rashawn Slater.
Yep.
It's the same thing over and over again. I'm not going to bite that bullet again. I'm confused. I would definitely put him at the top of my tackle list. I think him and then Matthew Bergeron have the best feet in the entire class. I know, Dill, you watched him last night. I came away impressed with him. This would be a steal for the Steelers. This would be a great pick, and he'd be a day one starter, and he'd improve the run game.
And he's
tackle class is tough. I think you got from last year, it was so good. I think you take those 3 comfortably above anyone.
Yes.
Okay. Because even Skoronski's a guy who ultra solid for the whole year for the most part. But you saw some moments against teams like Penn State where he was getting the obviously being tested athletically and with the power and all that. So he's a guy again, you look at the others, Paris Johnson, Broderick Jones. Those guys have ultra high ceilings, I think, but didn't really have nearly the year in terms of productivity.
On film, he's the best tackle in this class. And the thing is, even if you take him, he's going to start a guard. He's going to be an elite guard, even if he can't play tackle at the next level. You're getting – this is, in my opinion, as blue chips get. He's going to be good in the NFL, whether it's tackle, whether it's guard. Does he have as high of a ceiling as Broderick Jones, Paris Johnson Jr.? Maybe, probably not. But he's still a very damn good player. I want to talk a little Jaxon Smith-Njigba. yes, he's not going to run that fast. He's not like the freak athlete. He's like goes 6'1", 200 pounds. He's no flyer. I haven't seen a smarter wide receiver, like in a more smooth wide receiver than him. And going back and watching him in 2021, there's not a more QB friendly wide receiver in this class than the Jaxon Smith. He's really giving me a hard time with his name. JSN. Whether he's sitting it down in zone coverage and just understanding throwing lanes or beating man coverage in the slot, the worry is he can only play slot. That's where most of his snaps came from at Ohio State. But he's going to be a damn good slot guy. And talking about an Aaron Rodgers who needs just like Christian Watson, Romeo Dubes, like they are very, very good wide receivers. Jaxon Smith-Njigba is going to come in and be a target machine for Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, I think JSN, again, the name, he's very smooth, like you said, like almost like a Olave. But he gives Rodgers someone who can be a possession receiver, unlike a Dobbs or a Watson, who kind of stretches the field, kind of makes those splash plays. This is like a safety pick. Again, do we know if the Packers will pick a wide receiver in the first round? I don't know. No. Sure, make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and another one of my guys, Devon Witherspoon. You look at Devon Witherspoon, and here's the knock, and here's the question marks is, can he hold up in the NFL? He wasn't really tested in the Big Ten West. Like, who's scaring you? Iowa, Minnesota, like that. Those passing games aren't going to scare you. But if there's a guy you trust more in man coverage than Devon Witherspoon, a 25% or 25 passer rating when targeted. Like, he was a walking seatbelt, and I was he's a seatbelt against like guys who are walk-on wide receivers at Iowa. But he just didn't give up anything. And even when you watch the Purdue film, who a joke of the rest, he got dinged on like a couple pass interferences that were horrible calls. Devon Witherspoon's a guy that if you're drafting a cornerback in the first round, you want to be comfortable in man coverage. He's awesome. And Ryan Walters in that Illinois defense made him play a lot of man coverage, and he was very good at
it. Did they get him 2 cornerbacks?
Yes, Kelee Ringo.
Wow.
Yeah, that I have question marks about, and like I would go like we were talking about. I wouldn't take Kelee Ringo at 6. I'd consider maybe quarterback or maybe an edge rusher. But Devon Witherspoon in this later round, like Joey Porter Jr. still on the board too. Like I think those would be lock picks. And Osiris Torrance, I know this is probably your favorite interior offensive lineman. Like definitely interior offensive lineman 1. It's just how high are you going to take someone like him?
Yeah, that's kind of my thing because I don't know that he has the athleticism to be like all like. I mean, when you're taken at this spot, I think you need like a Zach Martin, good or Quentin Nelson caliber player. And I don't know if he's that just because he doesn't move like those guys. And I mean, he is powerful, he's big, and he's like strong as anyone I've ever really seen in college football. But again, I don't know. To be that good at guard, like that all pro consistent, like every year, like again, the Martins and Nelsons, I think you need to be a little higher level athlete.
Yeah. Moving on here, Brian Branch, another guy that he's going to play like, I think he's best in like a walk-in box safety because he's so good around the line of scrimmage. Him and Antonio Johnson from Texas A&M. Like Brian Branch has the chops of being like a nickel corner. I think he's best like kind of a box safety. You're getting a guy when you take in that he's a utility guy that does a lot of things very, very well. If you want to play the run and blitz him and play behind the line of scrimmage, he can do that. But he's also very, very good in coverage. I like Brian Branch a lot. The team that picks him needs to know how they're going to use him.
Yeah.
I love Brian Branch. Huge fan.
I didn't get a chance to watch him, but I did watch the game this weekend. He made a nice interception with some.
He was all over the field.
Yeah,
he was all over the field against Kansas State.
I mean, a guy who can blitz, he can cover in man, he can cover in zone. He does everything, and I don't know. Feels like a very valuable trade for the NFL right now.
This pick makes I question marks about this. Like Bijan Robinson, I don't think there's a single NFL fan base that's going to be pissed when Bijan Robinson comes off the board. Like you're not going to be mad that your team took a running back because you're getting one of them. And for my mind, since I've been doing this, like the most impressive running back prospect. It's just you drafted Rachaad White last year and a Tampa Bay Bucs team that I think needs a lot of help around him. You're talking to 3 guys who really aren't like running. Like we're not going to be dying on the hill of running back value. Like, we're just not. So
well, I don't want to be lumped in with you two in your anti-running back stance. I think if you have a good running back, it matters a lot. I don't know.
You're going to get one who's sick. Like, the Bucs, like you got a lot of other things you got to be worrying about. Then, gosh darn,
that could be true. But I also think you could take Bijan Robinson top 20. I I wouldn't bat an eye.
This is the one team where you're like, there's probably 4 other positions and a quarterback that's like aging beyond belief that they could use. I mean, they could use a Joey Porter Jr. right here. Again, he hasn't been taken, be a perfect fit. But yeah, again, you love Bijan Robinson, the player. You just don't love the fit here.
Yes, I'm kind of with you. And also, like, and this will be another day discussion. Like, this running back class is deep. Like, I got 13 running backs on my board that I don't even know what to do. I know I have Bijan Robinson 1, and then there's a gap, and I'm just trying to figure out who I have, and I like a lot of them. Like, if you want a running back, like, there's a lot of them in this draft class. Yep. Project Jones to the Patriots. I think this makes sense. We all like Rock. You don't like Project Jones as much as us, right?
No, I think he's more. So I really got the chance to watch him the other day when I texted you pretty late at night.
Yes.
I think he's more of a project. I didn't see the improvement that I wanted to see from 21 to 22. He's definitely a little bit more of a projection, but you see the athleticism. I mean, he's 300-something pounds, but he looks like he's 250. Get him in an NFL weight room, put some weight on him. I think he'll be good. So I like the pick at 22. His upside's huge, but as a prospect right now, I don't love him.
Fair enough. I'm a big Project Jones guy. He was my offensive tackle 1 coming in. I think I got Paris Johnson Jr. a little bit higher now. Michael Mayer, 23 to the Giants. You don't know what the Giants are going to look like now. Brian Dabble, and I trust him. Like, he's done a phenomenal job, and you're getting a tight end who I just drafted Michael Mayer in like the top 25, top 20. I just have question marks. Like, he's not the freak that we saw like a Kyle Pitts. And that it made more sense when Kyle Pitts was going in the top 5. Michael Mayer is going to help in offense. I don't know if I'm taking him in the first round.
Yeah. For a tight end needy team, there's going to be some available tight ends in the free agency class, especially with Dallas going to be able to give up Dalton Schultz. So I think that if I'm the Giants, I'd rather get a Dalton Schultz here and spend this pick anywhere else than a Michael Mayer. So I think like day 1, I think even Schultz would be a better pick. I don't.
He's a tough one because, again, like, I know we've talked about it, but unless you're going to get like a Travis Kelce or Gronkowski or Tony Gonzalez or Antonio Gates type player, it's really hard to justify taking tight ends round 1. Because again,
I just don't know if he has that.
4 guys who are worth first round picks, I feel like, in 20 years, and I'm sure I'm missing some, but those 4 guys I mentioned, like,
yes,
you're not getting some
hours, sure. So
that'll be more of an interesting conversation next year in 2024.
Runs like a deer.
No, Nolan Smith coming in for the Ravens. I like Nolan Smith, obviously, like a former number 1 overall recruit. Very good against the run game, even though he's not like that big. Rock, I think you're probably highest on him, right?
I wouldn't say I'm the highest on him. I have him at number 6, right behind Felix Inaduke Uzoma. You didn't see the production in terms of numbers this year. I think he had 8.5 sacks last year for this year. He did get injured with his pec injury at the end of the year. I mean, he's a special athlete. He could definitely shore some things up technique-wise. Like you said, great against the run. For a Ravens team, it makes sense. They have what's the Penn State kid's name? Owe. So on the other side, some freak athletes on both ends. It makes sense. But I think in my mind, there might be a better player on the board.
Yeah, especially in the edge class. I don't have him nearly that high. I still like his game. Cam Smith, this is Rock's guy. See, I like a lot of other cornerbacks. Like, taking Cam Smith over Joey Porter Jr. to me doesn't make any sense. I don't know if he's going to play like more of that nickel stuff in the NFL. You're getting a good player. I just think there are better players available at that cornerback spot.
Yeah, I think they already have a tone setter in Derwin James on that defense anyway, especially in the secondary. So yeah, I'd be okay with the Joey Porter here.
Anton Harrison, I'm going to let you guys just gush over him because I know he's both your guys. Have at it, fellas.
Should be in conversation for offensive tackle 100%. I mean, he's got the size. I think he's a good athlete. Maybe he's not as good of an athlete as, like, say, Paris Johnson, but I think he's stronger. Mm-hmm. And I think he played, at the end of the day, better football. Like, he didn't give up much against even really good pass rushers like Felix and Aduke from Kansas State or some of the other guys he faced. I'm with that. I think he's criminally underrated.
Yeah, his tape this year was incredible. Just reading a couple notes that I had on him. Big time mover in the run game, gets defenders going backwards with great initial strike, followed up with strong leg drive, great grip strength and stonewalls defenders trying to bull rush him off the edge, works at the second level and finds work. The one thing I did say is that he had like a short set. He'll kind of set with like 2 feet, and then sometimes a speedy edge rusher will get to his outside shoulder. But such a physical player.
He's so strong. It's like even with not perfect pass setting, he's like usually okay.
And you see the confidence in as a pass protector. Like he looks like he's like done this every day of his entire life.
Almost too confident when I watch him. He's almost like, dude, you're playing football. He's like so nonchalant sometimes, but he is a guy that special upper body strength, like probably one of the strongest tackles, if not the strongest tackle in this class. Blake Freeland, offensive tackle from BYU. That is an interesting pick. I have a guy's like if I had a big board set, I don't know if he's in my top 50. So this seems like a little bit of a reach for him. Moving on to
I think he's a guard personally in the NFL.
Yeah, well,
6'8" guard. Holy cow!
You can. Oh, don't give me this like height.
I know, it's just funny. I've never seen that in my life.
1920s.
Rock Jalen. I'll start with Jalen Hyatt. I in terms of wide receivers, like I just have question marks about him being able to win one-on-one. Like when you watch his tape in Tennessee, like so much was just like schemed open. If you're like looking for a wide receiver to kind of come into an offense and be able to win at the next level, I have a lot more confidence in a guy like Josh Downs or Zay Flowers to make that happen over Jalen Hyatt, guy that, is going to run really fast, but you didn't really see like polished wide receiver play from this kid.
Yeah, I think that it's a fun pick. I think Jalen Hyatt's a fun receiver to watch. But Dallas needs someone that's going to get open quickly, and a Josh Downs and a Zay Flowers just makes a little bit more sense. I don't know what you do. Like CD plays his best football in the slot, so Hyatt being able to stretch the field on the outside does make sense. And Josh Downs to me is kind of more of a slot receiver in the NFL. So I guess a Zay Flowers would probably be the best pick for me. But I mean, getting a wide receiver at all or any help at wide receiver would be good for the Cowboys. Right?
Yeah, I'm not going to go back into this, but all this Tennessee hate of offensive players is ridiculous. Because, like, you guys keep doing this X's and O's. It's like, no, you still got to play football and get open. And he did that as well as anyone.
Josh Heupel got him open. He didn't get open.
No, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But, of course, he's getting open. He's the one catching the passes. But, again, this is for a later day. I know we're running a little long here, but I'm not done with Hendon Hooker and Jalen Hyatt. They will their respect.
Full transparency, I've watched 10 wide receivers. Jalen Hyatt has not been one of them. So do not count me in with the group of Jay just yet.
Fair enough. So
I've watched him. Question marks, to say the least. Drew Sanders is a very interesting one. I saw someone compare him to Micah Parsons, so playing like more traditional. Yeah, no, I agree. Off-ball linebacker, was a freak athlete. And I just think he should be playing. Like, they have him listed as an edge. He played a lot of off-ball linebacker for Arkansas once he was able to see the field transfer from Alabama. He just doesn't have the athleticism. Like Mike Parsons is 1-on-1, and like to be like, oh yeah, Drew Sanders, you're gonna draft this kid and he's gonna come in and play that Micah Parsons role seems like a stretch. I like his game, especially if you just move him to like an edge to like an outside linebacker in a 3-4 defense. But I have question marks about taking him number 1 or in the first round to play edge when he played edge a little bit, but not a lot.
I just don't know that he's got the frame to put the edge weight on. I mean, what was he playing at Arkansas around 230, 235?
But he's 6'5", so like I think he can it. But he also missed.
But you still gotta like look. I mean, how much? Again, you gotta still be like thick and big, and it's like you can be tall, but that doesn't mean you're a natural 250 to 60 pound guy. You still gotta have the frame and the size.
And I'm happy they put him at edge because I would like to see him at edge, and most people still have him at like that off-ball linebacker look. But again, like you look at what he did, like missed 20% of his tackles. Like that's a problem. And so I have some question marks about that. Antonio Johnson's, I love him. I loved him coming in. I think he'd be a great fit for the Bills. Now that being said, I have some other ways I'd want the Bills to spend this pick, especially when you're looking at like interior offensive line hasn't been great. If Osiris Torrence this year, I'd love that. But Antonio Johnson, very similar to Brian Branch, like has the chops to play like that nickel corner role. But I think his best fit when you're like, okay, you're going to play safety for us. We're going to walk in the box and we're going to let you be a dog on the field and just make plays. Oh boy. The Kansas City Chiefs are so fun to draft to because like I've seen Bijan Robinson. That'd be sick. Darnell Washington is very close to becoming my tight end 1. If you're looking for a guy like especially the Chiefs, they don't have a problem moving the ball. They have a problem scoring touchdowns in the red zone. Every team wants to score touchdowns in the red zone. What better guy is to do that than a 6'7", 275-pound tight end who there were question marks about how soft his hands were in the hands game in general. Only 3 drops on the year kind of answered some of those questions about can he catch passes like a tight end. And he's going to help in the run game because basically 6 offensive linemen. Sign me up for this pick.
Yeah, I'd be sick as a Bills fan looking at this pick.
Yes. Yeah, he's awesome. And then finally, to close it out, Jahmyr Gibbs going 32 to the Eagles. This, if you're looking to replace Miles Sanders, this makes a lot of sense. Again, personally, Jahmyr Gibbs is getting a lot of comps of like Alvin Kamara. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs doesn't nearly have the contact balance of Alvin Kamara. Like, yes, he's more of a James Cook to me. He's a smooth runner, very good in space, can catch out of the backfield. Like, has a lot of that stuff, especially when you're looking at Miles Sanders, who really is not good out of the backfield. Like, it makes sense.
That's worth it here. I mean, you're not taking him in the top 20, I guess, but back end of the first, like, or later part of the first and into the second. Again, what you mentioned, like when you can catch it the way he does and make plays and pick up first downs and by getting the ball underneath, like those are important things. I do like Jahmyr Gibbs a lot. I think he's fair game in the back end of the first round.
Like, I guess my final take is that the gap between Jahmyr Gibbs and Bijan Robinson
it is fairly good size for sure.
But what I'm saying is it's way bigger than the gap between like RB2, RB3, RB4, RB5 is. Like I'm saying, like, if you have another guy and there's still a lot of good guys on the board. Is Joey Porter Jr. even gone yet? Like, he's a guy that I would certainly consider. There's some edge rushers like Felix and Uzama I consider. Brian Brazier I don't even think was included in this. No. Like, and I get that was because there's question marks if he was even going to declare. He did declare. I think you're better off taking a running back in day 2 who are like really good. I mean, I'm going to list off like Devin Achane, Tank Bigsby, Sean Tucker, Zach Charbonnet. I think that gap is a lot slimmer than it is for other guys. I'm not the biggest Jahmyr Gibbs. You won't find me kind of dying on the hill of Jahmyr Gibbs. That'll do it though. 32 picks. Again, this ran a little long, but we appreciate you guys rocking with us. Again, if you do like the content, subscribe to the channel and then let us know in the comment section players we're sleeping on, positions we're sleeping on. Again, we appreciate the support you guys have shown. NFL draft season is the best season. We appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.